Hi, it's Angela MacOscar and Clive Surman-Wells from Northumbrian Water. We're absolutely delighted to be here with the One Spatial Smarter Data, Smarter World conference. And we're going to be covering a little bit about a systems thinking approach. Next slide. So in the water sector at the moment, I think it's quite fair to say that it is both an exciting and a challenging time. It is a challenging time because we are facing huge opportunities to tackle some of the really big challenges that are facing the sector, such as climate change, population growth, and aging assets. And all of these challenges are really requiring immediate solutions for us to really step change the amount of service and delivery that we can give to our customers in this environment that we're living in today. And the really exciting part is that in the water sector at the moment, more than ever, we are coming together to collaborate on these big challenges. So we have the water innovation strategy that is going to drive a centre of excellence where all of the water companies are going to come together to work together on tackling some of these really clear shared challenges and really drive transformation across the sector. Next slide. And to do this, a systems thinking approach is going to be really useful in really tackling these wicked problems that we have to solve. So these are problems that have been on everybody's to-do list for many a year, looking at the size and scale of the problems that we have, such as leakage, flooding, increasing our service to our customers. And all of this is driven by weather, the backdrop of what's going on in the world. So there's an awful lot going on. So a systems thinking approach has been a proven success in really tackling problems around processes, relating to human behavior, and really thinking about the idea as a whole and really creating end-to-end solutions that will actually really tackle those things. So wicked problems are definitely the right sort of problems to use this sort of approach. Next slide. So at Northumbrian Water, we are really open for business, and we're open for business in a number of different ways. Open innovation is at the heart of the work that we do in Northumbrian Water. And in order to do this, we have a number of different levers and buttons that we push. So I'm really hoping that many of you have been part of our Innovation Festival that we've now run successfully for the past 4 years. And this is a really key demonstration of how we are open for business. So the open innovation is really the core ethos behind why we run the festival. So we can draw together a large pool of diverse audience to help us tackle some of these really big challenges that face our water sector, the environment, and the society at large. And this year, more than any time, did we believe that there was a need for innovation. So we pivoted very quickly from our usual physical event that takes place in Newcastle at a racecourse to being a wholly digital event. And this year was absolutely incredible to work with over 900 companies and organizations across 37 different countries using 11 different digital platforms. And we really want to make sure that we are open for business, share our challenges so we can really have that diversity of thought and approach to how we tackle those challenges. We also very much welcome people into our innovation ecosystem, and we really want to collaborate with those people in our sector, in the supply chain, and in other sectors in order to crack these challenges. And of course, we have the Water Innovation 2050 work that we are working on hand in hand with our other water company colleagues. The other way in which we are open for business is that we are very passionately interested in open data and using this as a core part of how we leverage data in our future. And one manifestation of this has been the Open October event that we have been running, where again, we've been collaborating with other water companies and to leverage other open data sources to really tackle the tough challenges that we have through using data. And we've run probably about 15 or so different data hacks now across the last 5 years. And this is one of the fastest ways in which we can realize real value from an innovative approach. So we really want to be doing this more and more as we move forward. Next slide.
So over to me to talk about a few examples of the way that we've tackled problems at our innovation festivals. There's many challenges we're presented with, and we take usually one of 4 different approaches, and I'm just going to focus in on 2 of those. So the first example here we have is an example of an approach where we attempt a year's worth of work in a week, and this is really good for where you've got a problem, perhaps a really long-standing problem. In this case, creating a single map of what's under the ground in one place. That would be really difficult to solve and would take a long time to bring the right people together. So the key point here is bringing people together who can solve this problem and who understand it and can define the problem in one place for a concentrated period of time. So at our Innovation Festival in 2018, we brought together legal representatives from the companies, from various utility and local authority companies, planners, excavators themselves, people digging holes, and asset managers, and really got to the root of the problem about why we weren't sharing and creating a map in one place. And you know what? We found that it wasn't a case that there wasn't a platform. It wasn't a problem of creating a platform. It was actually a problem of data sharing and trust. Now, the key point for an event like this is to use it as a springboard, because the real value of it was in creating momentum, bringing people together to build relationships and trust so that we could form a consortium afterwards. And it is through that that we ultimately attracted government attention to the problem and gained nationwide support. And now you may well have heard that this geospatial initiative is really taking off, and we're hoping to establish it as a national platform. The second example is one of a design sprint. So we started here with a question, which was, how deep should I expect to find the point at this, the pipe at this point? It's a very common problem in utility companies and those managing buried networks, that their records of the XY position of assets is very good, but the Z value, the depth, is a theoretical value. So looking at this diagram from an NJUG manual, you know, there's a theoretical depth and position within the pavement at which assets of various kinds should be found. But I've used the S word there. We know from our experience that depth varies. And our records aren't complete because the services have been put into the ground over the last 100 years, and in many cases we've inherited records and assets from other people. So why is it important, first of all, that we have a really good knowledge of asset depth? Well, it's a key piece of information in the fight to avoid utility strikes when one utility strikes the services of another. So we can avoid costly third party to our assets if we have a better knowledge of depth and where to expect those services. The second thing is avoiding strikes will obviously reduce disruption to customers. But there's a back office benefit as well. If you know how deep an asset is buried, then you can plan much better how long you should allow to carry out that work. And in terms of taking the right equipment out for the job at hand, we can avoid abandoned jobs by bringing shuttering if we know that the asset is going to be particularly deep, and so that is a great help to us. Now, not all pipes are equal. You can see in this example, you know, big pipes are generally deep and shallow ones can be shallow, although that's ridiculously shallow. So we've looked at applying a bit of science to this problem. We're asking the question, could we build a set of rules to infer the depth and take into account factors in depth, which might be things like the diameter of a pipe, the material it's made of, the age of a pipe, what surface it's buried under, or even the soil type that it's put in. All of these could have a factor, could have an impact on the depth at which a pipe is buried. And so, I mean, the conclusion is yes, we can do that. We can create a model of the network. Now, creating a model is not earth-shatteringly innovative, but I think making it a constantly learning and daily improving model is innovative. And if we can, what we've aimed to do here is to improve the accuracy and confidence. So as well as asking and getting an answer to how deep something is, knowing how certain we are of that of the answer, it has a lot of value. So how does it work? Essentially, Northumbrian Water, we dig over 100,000 excavations in the course of keeping the water flowing every year. And so if while we have the ground open, we record the depth of assets and associate that with the mains, we can then use the true observations of depth to regenerate the model daily based on that. So when somebody asks a question, our answer is based not only on the model factors, but also how nearby we've actually observed a pipe and at what depth. So that gives us a great deal more confidence in our answers. And these two initiatives are going from strength to strength based on those two approaches. The other approaches we have are the data hack and the daily dash, which is like a concentrated version of a design sprint. So that's a whirlwind tour of some of the approaches to innovation that we've used at our festival. And if anybody's interested in taking part in future festivals, then by all means, please do come and talk to One Spatial in one of the side lounges, and you can hear all about their experiences at our innovation festival. So on behalf of Angela and myself, I'd like to thank you for listening and inviting us along to talk. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Clive and Angela. Some fantastic insights there regarding open innovation and the importance of data sharing and that element of trust to be able to tackle those big challenges. Fantastic. We will now have another Q&A session, and we'll have Liam, Clive and Angela this time, giving us the opportunity to answer your questions that you've posted in the chat.
Hi, Karen.
Hi. Hiya. Welcome on stage. So while we've got Liam joining us, I'm going to pose a question to you, Angela. So if there was one data set you'd like to be made openly available, what would that be?
Ooh, that is a $100 million question, that one. What data set would we want to be open? Oof. Clive, have you got any top of mind thoughts while I'm looking through my Rolodex?
Yeah, there are so many data sets that would be useful to different people. So I suppose it really depends on who the end user is. I mean, asset position would be a great one to be able to release, but whether or not we could get over the hurdles of national security to do that would be another matter.
Yeah, no, definitely. That definitely seems to be one of the things which keeps popping up, isn't it? That element of openness would be absolutely fantastic, but there's always going to be a few barriers in the place of getting to that endpoint, isn't there? Okay, let me pose one to you, Liam. Hiya, welcome back. So does this mean NGN have a single source for all your GIS information and systems? Just consume information from this? Or how do you control its accuracy with so many systems pulling onto it?
Karen, I think Liam's still having a couple of problems with audio. So I suggest you pose the first couple of questions to Angela and Clive, and I'm just trying to sort out Liam's problems through the chat.
Not a problem. Okay, I will target one towards you, Clive, this time. So Power of Z depth model looks like it could be applied to similar problems in other utilities too. Please, would you say a little more about the model learns?
So, say a little more about the...
Model learns. So what
the way it works, the way it learns, yes. Okay, well, essentially on day one, we start off with a model based on a network depth of 1.2 meters, because that's all we know, the theoretical depth of the network. Then every day as we go out and excavate, we or in fact lift an inspection cover and put a tape measure down to a valve or something, then we learn something about the depth, and all of those observations are fed via various means through to the central database, which then updates the depth just at that point, and then we recalculate the whole model. And that happens every day. So as you can see, it's learning every day. We're getting more spot depths, which calibrate the model and mean that the inferred depths are more accurate and are based on true observations rather than based on a theoretical value.
Brilliant. Thank you. I will pose this question to both of you. So, and we've heard a lot of benefits about NUAR this week. Why do you think it hasn't been done before?
That's an interesting question. It's when I joined the water industry 14 years ago, that was a question I asked at that point. Why don't we have this map? So I think there's not necessarily been a combined will to do it, but there are many hurdles. It's a terrifically complicated problem. I think that's probably the core of it. People have had attempts at it, but getting full participation has been one of the major successes, I think, of NUAR this time, and that's a realization that it can be done, and a vision of seeing it. You know, what we were able to do at our innovation festival was create a pilot system in 5 days and show that it could be done, and encourage people to share data just for 5 days under very specific conditions, and then use that as a springboard to understand, okay, well, if this was a real thing, how could we share that information? How could we get over the legal concerns, the fears about data quality, the commercial concerns about putting information into the market? So that's probably what we've managed to overcome this time, and why we've managed to make it happen this time.
Brilliant. We seem to have lost Liam, but I'm going to pose a question to you both. So we were very fortunate to attend your Innovation Festival again this year, but this time it was online, so completely different. But it seemed to work, and it was a great event. What kind of takeaways have you been able to take from the event? And do you think that element of not being face to face has stunted it in any way, or are you just trying to take the benefits from that?
I think that initially we were very disappointed that we couldn't have our physical event, because the buzz and energy around a physical space is amazing, and it genuinely is. I think we've had various of our delegates tell us that it's their most favourite working week in their entire working lives, which is pretty, you know, big beans to live up to. However, what we did is we took the opportunity to digitize all of the key features of the event to bring it to life. And I think that it's fair to say that the quality of the output using digital tools this year was incredibly high. And also, by opening up digital doors, really enabled us to be much more accessible and inclusive. So we actually had 900 organisations from 37 different countries, which I'm pretty sure would not have happened if we'd have had it in the field in Newcastle. Absolutely. So actually, although a little bit disappointing on one hand, built a much more accessible and inclusive aspect of our festival as we move forward.
Brilliant. And then just on the back of that, we've got a question here. Do you think you'll go back to an in-person event to allow for extra networking?
Yes, because I think that some aspects worked incredibly well, which indeed was the design sprints and the quality of the output, but nothing online yet, I don't think, can replace that, those serendipitous connections that you make when you go and get a coffee or an ice cream, or, you know, a trip to a food station. And that we definitely want to get back. So I think it's going to be a delicate marriage of the two to hopefully have a win-win.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. That was fantastic. Are you going to be around in our networking lounges during the break at all if people want to grab you for questions?
Yeah,
brilliant.
Sure.
So what we'll do is we will take another break now.